Hi viewers and welcome to the channel, and today we're looking at the Curves Workbench, and today we're looking at fully parametric models. In front of you I've got the knife handle that I used in a previous video. Now I've made that fully parametric so we can change parts of this. Now I've used multiple rails in my sweep this time, so we have this freehand b-spline here, this one here, and also we've got the join curves which are also parametric. So I can come in, and what I'm going to do is come down and hide the solid, which is this slice, and bring back my approximation curve that I created. Don't worry, I'm going to go through and recreate this again and show you what I've done. And we're going to start changing some of these. I've got this approximation curve set to, if I come down to the view, transparency set to 60 so I can actually see through it. That allows me to drop these lines into here, but I've also set the selected to false. Means I can't select that, I only select it from the tree view. That allows me to drop these lines inside this shape and also get hold of them and collect them again. So that's quite essential for this. When I hit escape or double click on that b-spline, you can see that face has transformed, and also the slice, which is a solid. As you can see, we've got a solid on the bottom and the top, so this is fully solid. That has changed as well. And I normally do the cylinder and do an abstraction from this just to prove that it is solid. So if we bring this up and also change the size of it, come into the data, come into the radius, and we'll push that into the handle and use the slice, keep the slice, remove the cylinder, make sure we're out of the transform. So select the slice, control select the cylinder and remove that from there. Then you can see when I come back into that curve, so any one of them, that takes the one that's riding over the top of that, and we'll just hide the cut for the time being and bring back the approximation curve so we can see what we're doing, and we'll pull that out this way and double click that. We can see that surface has come out, and we'll have a look at the cut and hide that curve. We can see that our cut is in there. Obviously we've got a little bit of deformation there because we've gone above that cylinder. So we come into that cylinder, we have a look at that cylinder. You can see how that's sitting in there. That's actually stuck in there. And if we change the height on this and come back to the cut, let's hide the cylinder, you can see how parametric that model is. So let's have a look at actually how I created this and show you a few tips around there for getting this into a solid. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. So in our previous video we created a knife handle. Now we create this from an STL file. That was our base, which was a component from one of these STL files. So there's a component there. Let's just press the spacebar on there so we can see that original component. And we took these edges from this STL file, and then using the Curves Workbench and the Part Workbench, we extracted out the wires, and also the Draft Workbench. We actually went into the Draft Workbench for that. We extracted out the wires there, and we connected them up with two freehand curves from the Curves Workbench. Then from that we created approximate curve and the mirror, and then from there we created two blend surfaces to make a nice wide handle. So we've basically created that handle using the two edges. So you can see that there. So there's the STL file, and there's part of the curve, one side of the mirror and the blend curve. So you can see how they sit together there. What we want to do is we want to make this fully parametric. Now to get this parametric, we needed to take our shell, which was created up the blend curves and the two sweeps, and we had to cap them. Now, one thing that I didn't say about is that these were a non-coplanar face. So the points of this face weren't on the same plane. They weren't planar. That means we had to use the shape builder. So if I come over to the part, I had to use this tool here, Advanced Utilities, to create shapes. That doesn't create a parametric shape in there. So when we created this as a solid, then we had to use two faces that weren't parametric, but the rest was. So there's two faces here. So the minute we change this, for instance, if we change the blend surface and come in and change something like the continuity and bring this down to something like 0, you can see the gapping that's starting to happen. See that in the top there. So this face is not changing. And I've just pressed the spacebar and that face there is part of the solid. But you can see the solid has changed now. So the solid has gone to brown, which means it's actually a type of shell. So the shape status is shell at the moment. And I just Control Z that, and that solid's gone green, and now it's back to solid now. So how do we make this parametric? Well, we need to create coplanar faces on these sides and close the shape, either by capping with a parametric face or using some kind of block extrude in there and extracting the shape out of that. So we're going to look at ways of actually closing this and making this fully parametric. Also, increase the parametric capabilities of this by, instead of using wires, these ones here is what we extracted out, we're going to be using a sketch. And so I'm going to be using these as templates. So we take these two wires, so I'm going to Control click them, right click, copy, and we'll start a new document. And I'm just going to paste those in there, Control V. And we'll use the fits the whole contents of the screen so we can see where we are. And we're looking down on the top. So we've got those two wires there, so we can just copy and paste across projects. It's not a problem there. So two wires are sitting there. We're going to convert those to a sketch. Now the first things first is to see where these are pasted. So I'm going to go out to the view and look at the toggle axis cross. And I can see my axis cross is right over here. So I want to move these over to this point. So the good thing is that because we've pasted them in, if we look at the placement and the position, they're all 0, 0. So they don't differ from each other. They all got their local position sitting there. And we can affect these together then, because they're not different values, so we can affect these both together by Control clicking them. I want to move them on the x-axis. So we're just going to use page up, page down to move these into position, and then some final adjustment along the Y. It's up to you where you want to place this. So that's about right, and we can affect the angle if we so desire as well. And just bring this in. So that'll do me. So we have our two wires here. Now we could come into the sketcher and create a sketch in here and trace these, which will probably be the best way to do this, because if we try to convert these wires to a sketch through the draft workbench and click on both the wires so they get entered into one sketch and come up to modifications and draft a sketch, then our sketch will be created, but we'll have a series of lines here which we have not real much control over. We can't actually do anything with this. So the best idea would be to actually retrace these lines. Now we can either do it via the sketch, or we could use the Curves Workbench freehand tool. I'm going to do it via the sketch, so I'm just going to get rid of this one. Come back over to the sketcher after getting rid of the gridding, and come into the sketcher, and I'm going to go click, make sure nothing's selected, new sketch, and we're looking down on the top, which is the XY plane, and OK that. Now I'm going to come in and start sketching, and we're just going to give ourselves a bit of room. I'm going to use the b-spline tool to do this, and we're just going to come in and click and just follow this line. So I'm just following this line, just laying down some points. This won't follow it perfectly, but gives me a guide of what shape I want to create. So once I've finished, hit escape, get the mouse pointer back, there we go, and we can modify these just to bring them in line with that edge. This means I have full control over the grip of this knife handle. You can see the actual points that we've laid down don't actually conform to the points of this. They actually get laid by the side of it. So our control points, these ones here, get placed upon this line rather than these vertices that go along here. So I'm just going to mould this into this line. So this is the first one done. Now we're going to do the same along this line here. Again, we're going to use a b-spline, and I'm going to set the points following this line. I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to just create a simple line or b-spline there and hit escape. So we've got that there. Hit escape again, and we can come in and just modify these if we so desire to get them in the right position. So this is just a simple sketch. It's up to you what tracing you want to do. You could use your own shaping here, but this allows me to change this handle, and we'll do that when we've fully modeled the object and show how parametric we can get that handle. I'm going to hit close. I'm going to hide those wires. I can even delete them because I don't need them anymore. In fact, let's get rid of them. Hit delete. So those wires are now gone, and we've got these two sketch elements. I'm going to jump over to the Curves Workbench. What I'm going to do is take these sketch elements and use the join curves. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want them separated from this sketch. So if I separate them from the sketch, this is still connected to the sketch. So if these change, the join curve will change. So I'm going to hide the sketch and just leave those join curves there. So if that sketch changes, for instance, if I make this more into a trigger, like so, you can see the join curve has changed as well. Some of you may have noticed that I took one single line from here. That was a bit of a mistake on my part. What I should have done was hold down the control key and selected the other edge from here. So I've got two edges selected, and then use the join curves. That will join those. Press the spacebar on the sketch as one single curve from there. You can do that if you so desire. Apologies, that was a bit of a mistake on my part. I only realised that after reviewing the video. So now we've got those two. I'm going to add another curve because we're going to be using the sweep across two rails. But with the sweep across two rails, we can add multiple rails in here. So as well as these two rails, I'm going to have another one. Now I'm thinking about these two, and first I will need to get some kind of profile on here before I start adding the curve that goes along here. Control click both of them, come down to the view and increase the point size so we can see that. So I'm going to increase it to something like 5, maybe a bit further, so 8. And now we can use the Curve Workbench, clicking on one, control clicking the other, and use the freehand b-spline there. That places a freehand b-spline across there. Click on the center of that b-spline because it's still in edit mode. Hit I on the keyboard. We've got all the keys listed under here. The only one that isn't listed is the delete. So we added I, and what I'm going to do is click on it, hit Z on the keyboard and take my finger off it. Now I can move this along the Z plane. It won't move up and down along this plane. So we just add some curvature on there. That'll do for me. Double click it, and we'll do the same on this end. Click one, control click the other vertex. Use the freehand b-spline tool. Click the middle, hit I to insert another point. Click and hold, hit Z on the keyboard, and move this up to give some curvature there. And then double click that free spline, and that will take. So we've got two arches there for the profiles. I'm going to link these two arches, so I'm going to click on top to get this nicely positioned, and click and hold down control and click around the middle and place a freehand b-spline across that. And we can move that, so you can see it's gone. See it's got an aqua color there. We can move that to wherever we want. And we can hit I in the middle of that to add another b-spline. And click on front. I'm just going to add a bit of curvature, like so. So our rail will come up across here, curve up and curve down. Let's double click that b-spline. Let's add another one. So get ourselves positioned. Click the top of those two arches. Click the freehand b-spline, that places them across there. You can see they've got an aqua color. And I'm going to add another b-spline point, control point in there, like so. Bring it around to the front, and we'll just bring this up. Not too far, so click. And it's moved because I moved the view whilst actually moving this and didn't actually constrain myself to an axis. So I'm just going to move that down, and we'll move these down as well. Come around to the side, and we can control that curvature there. So front, and we'll have some curvature. Just going to match that line. We're just going to hit escape. That places it there. So we've got 4 rails going across here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We could use a golden surface across here, but I find the rails, sweep across 2 rails or sweep across multiple rails, a lot more easier to use. So we're going to use these arcs as the ruled surface. So we need to come into the part workbench, click both of these arcs, control click them, place a ruled surface across there, like so. Then we can come back into the Curves Workbench, and we're going to select each of the rails, control selecting them, and the ruled surface, and do a sweep profile across 2 rails there. And you can see how that's conformed to that profile. So my sweep, I'll bring back the freehand b-spline by pressing spacebar on them and the join curves. We can see where they lay. I'm not happy with this line here because you can see that creates quite a odd shape we come in between this curve. It's actually beyond that in places. So I'm going to move that line. So grab hold of that line. I want to hide the sweep, and double click the freehand b-spline And we're just going to move this up. And I'm going to place it by the side of the other line, like so. We've got a nice curvature. This comes out this way and down this way, so there's not over the top of this, so we won't get any deformation of this shape. If I wanted to, I can double click those freehand b-splines, which are part of the ruled surface, and just lower that arc a bit, like so. Double click. The others will conform to it because they're attached, and the same from this one. And double click. So now when we go back to our Suite 2 rails, we can see how that's conformed. It's up to you how many rails you put in here. I've put 2 just to show how that actually works. Now we can use the Suite 2 rails with the approximate points to NURBS curve or surface. And that's been added there like so. Remember, it's approximation, so it won't be exact, so you can see how that's not exact there. So don't worry about that, because we can alter this to change the position of these to get a better fit. Also, the approximation curve coming to the data, you can see we've got some degrees min, degrees max there. So we can change that to get a different fit. But just watch out for this line and this edge, how that folds over the top of there. So we may need to change those options in there to get a better fit. I'm going to stick with that one. What we're going to do now is mirror this across a plane to get 2 sides. We need the part workbench for that, and it's simply a case of clicking on the approximation curve, coming out to part, mirroring. We're using the mirror feature there on the toolbar. Come down, the approximation curve has been selected. Look at where we're going to mirror across, which is the XY plane, and use the XY plane and hit OK. That's mirrored across there. We can see they're joined up there, but we're going to create some separation across these two. So double click on the mirror. That gives you the control to actually move this away from the original. And then hit escape, and the effects have taken. So now we've got a mirror across here. We're going to come back over to the Curves Workbench and add the surface in that goes across here. And we're going to use the blend surface tool, this one here. And we need to click on one face, control click the edge. Now at this point you may have some of the geometry still visible from the other part, so we come in and look at the Suite 2 rails. We've got the join curve there, which we can hide pressing the spacebar on there, and all the others. So shift, select them, press the spacebar, and come into the rule surface as well and do the same there, so they don't interfere with what you're doing. So click on one side, control click the edge, control click the edge of the other side, control click the face, and blend that curve between them. Let's create a curve between those, curved surface. Do the same for the other side. So looking at this face, control click the edge, control click the face, and then control click the other edge, and make a blend between those. So we've blended those across there, like so. And our handle is starting to take shape. At this point, it is parametric, so if I came into the original sketch, and let's create that trigger on there, hit close, you can see that has moved out like so. Come back in, and I'm going to curve this around this way. Again, more of a trigger there for what I want. Again, we can use these curves that have gone across here by coming into the freehand b-splines. You can see them there, double click, and we can add control points on these, so hit I, and the same on the other side. What you may want to do is click on the face, which is there, come into the view, and come down, see where it says selectable, set that to false. That means I can't select that, which gives me total control over this line. So I can double click and add, hit an I to add b-spline points, and we'll go from the rear, and I'm going to bring this one down a bit. That's vanished into there. If I wanted to, I can make this transparent, so we can come into, let's double click that b-spline and let that take, so you can see we've created a dent in there. So that b-spline follows that and has created a dent down there. So we're modeling this handle. We've still got b-spline that goes along here, but what we can do is make this selectable again. So we come up to the approximation curve, which is this one, pressing the spacebar because we can't see when it's selected because selectable is off. And rather than making it selectable again, let's just change the transparency up to something like 70. So we can see through there then, like so. Click off. So that's transparent. So now when I come in that b-spline and change the curvature, let's go a bit more, and also let's control that belly there as well. Double click. Then we can see how that's being curved into shape. Let's do the other one. Bring the other one back. Double click, add a few more control points, and one up here. Click on rear, and now I can see inside as I dip this into there. And we can really control our curves and also our body. So you can see how that's taking shape there. It's also going to be reflected on the mirror on the other side. And we can change the curvature of this. Now the question is that we've got all these, how do we make this solid? Because before, in the previous video, I created a cap on here, but it was not parametric. I want that to be parametric. The way we do that is make these planar surfaces. So a planar means that they have to have all the vertices along one plane. At the moment, if I try to make a face out of these, so we need to allow, well, first of all, be able to select this curve. So it's transparent at the moment. Selectable is set to false, so that's true. And we'll select those edges, control click all those edges. And we need to be in the part because we can go to part, make a face from wires. Shape must be a wire, edge or compound, something else was supplied. The trouble is all those vertices on those edges aren't planar, so they're not coplanar with each other, they're not on the same plane. I can create a face using the shape builder, but it's not going to be parametric. So the best idea that I can come up with is actually make those edges so they are planar. To make it planar, we need to make this straight along one plane. So we can take a slice across here. And the same on the other side. A slice across here to make this on one plane. What I'm going to use is a small trick with the sketcher. and we're going to make a block around this. So I'm going to come in, create a new sketch, make sure nothing's selected. We're looking along the bottom. Actually, we need to be on the XY plane, the top. Okay, let's flip that around. And I'm looking to create a polyline shape, so I can use lines or create a polyline. And I'm going to cut right through this to make it planar, making sure the bottom of this pokes out the other side. And we can make any shape we want along here, like so. And I'm going to do the same for this bottom, making sure we cut through and connect up to the top there as well. So we've got those, and they slice through that knife. Still got the transparency on, so that's fine. I'm going to move this so it's in the middle of here. So we're going to come into model, just going to hit escape, click hit escape, get the mouse pointer back, click on the sketch, come up to the data, placement, position, and we're looking along the Z plane, so let's change that along the Z plane, have that sliced through that Z plane, like so. So we can see that slicing through there, and also on the bottom it's slicing through, and it's got that edge there. Come to task, hit close, we've got our shape there. We're going to extrude that, so click on the sketch, come up to the part workbench and hit extrude. We're looking to extrude along the Z axis, and we're going to make it symmetrical as well, so that will extrude out from the center both ways. And we may need to change that extrude to make it fit all the way around here, so you can see how that's extruded out. So click on that extrude, come down, have a look at the data and look at the length. So we can increase that length, hit Ctrl R to refresh, and we need to cover the whole object, like so. And go a bit further as well, doesn't matter. So we've got a nice block there that covers the object except for the end parts. This face is obviously planar, so we'll get a planar face in here. What we're going to do now, if I've selected spare space, is I'm going to select the box and then select the object that's inside, but we need to group that object together. For that, I'm just going to select the approximation curve, the mirror and the curve, and the two blend surfaces, and come up to part and come down to compound, make compound. So we've got a compound object there, so it's one object. Select the extrude, control click the compound, come up to part, split, slice apart. You will notice that inside we have a face here and also a face here. Come into the exploded compound, you'll see two slices. If I click on the slice that was our extrude, press the space bar, we've now got a solid object. So this is a solid now, and it's all closed. But the good thing about this solid is if we come to the slice, let's try the one that we've actually created the solid from, come back into the extrude and the compound, and we've got those approximation curves there. We could come down to the blend surface, and I'm just going to zero out the continuity of this blend surface. I'm not sure which one this is. It's the top one, so you can see how that's taken. So this is still a solid, and that's actually taken along there. The same with the bottom one, which is this one. Click on that, zero out the continuity. You can see it conforming. There we go, so that has taken there, and we're still solid. Let's bring these back. So I'm going to set this one to something like 3. You can see it's gone black for a second then, that was broken, and now it's come back. So that's all set there. And we want this blend surface as well, which was this one. So it's a continuity on there to 2 as it was before. And we can come into the sketch even and play with the sketch. So let's set this back. So that's back to normal now. And obviously we've got the sides as well. So our approximation curve, our sweep 2 rails come in here. We've got the freehand b-splines which run along the sides, which are going to be along the bottom. And they go there. And a good idea to come into this compound, come down to the data, onto the view, transparency, put this transparency up like 70 so we can see through it. Got that line there. Double click the b-spline and we'll flare out the body, bring this up. You have to be wary of where your extrude is. That's the reason why we created a larger extrude. Make sure the extrude is out here. Let's just double click that b-spline and you can see our body's flared out there. So that's a way of sweeping across multiple rails using the freehand b-spline along with coplanar surfaces to create a solid to allow for a fully parametric model that you can then take further in your design. So this is just a word of warning and also a little tip to actually fix this problem with the transparency. What's happened is that this compound has inherited the transparent face. It's actually pulled that through. And even coming back to the approximation curve, the transparency on there, I've reset to 0. And the mirror reset to 0, and I can't get that back. So if you remember that I set this transparent so I could actually see the lines going into this object and set the selected as false, you can see we've got problems here. It seems to be inherited it up the chain. So the compound object now has a transparent face and all the rest are okay. The way to solve that is come over to the part workbench and there's this tool here. Sets the colour of each individual face of the selected object. So we've got our compound here, we can select that compound and we'll come into the tool and now we've got to select the face. So I want this face here. So face 2, and I can select that. I've already got this colour selected here, or we could pick a screen colour. So I can come in and use a screen colour from there. But I can't move this at the moment, so we must have our object in a position where we can actually get to it. So about there. And pick a screen colour, and we can pick a colour from the screen. But it's not going to be the same as the object because we're looking at the lighting of the object. So I'm just going to go for our custom color over here, this one here. Hit OK. And now that's colored that face there to the correct color. We can pick out colors obviously from here. And you can see when I come into them, they're actually picked. So if I change that color, hit OK, that one's pink now. If I click on that, go into those faces, you can see it's already picked that color. So we could pick, say, this one up. There we go. So that's this one here, which is CC, and we can add that to custom colors, which I have done there. And then we can go onto the face that we want to color and just reset that, like so. We can also change the color for the compound altogether. So if we want to change the color of that face, as well as all the other faces, just come in and select the color and hit OK. So if you get into that problem, it's quite easy to reset those colors there. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content. and that's at www.patreon.com/mangojelly-solutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.